Hi again, everybody. This is Edwin the Magic Engineer, and I wanted to make a video showing you guys what old school magic is really like. I know that there's been some discussions about it. I know you've probably heard something about it, but I wanted to actually give everybody a real good visual on what it's actually like. So what I've got set up right now is I'm talking to you through the Skype camera that's on top of a monitor right in front of my little play area. And when you do a 93, 94 old school format, you generally play over a Skype camera like this because you don't generally run into a lot of people that have like a lot of the older school cards or get into the format. So locally, it just doesn't quite work out. What you end up having to do is play games with people around the world. And so there's a Facebook group that you can get invited to. And what you do is somebody will post on the Facebook group that they want to do an old school game, and then you reply and say, yeah, let's play, and then you exchange Skype contact information. One of you calls the other one, and then you meet up, you get your video camera set up, you introduce yourselves to each other, and then after you've got that all set up, you just start shuffling and playing the game. This is kind of how it works. So you can see right now, you can't see my play area super well at the moment, but what you generally do is you talk to them a little bit face to face and say, hey, what rules are we going to agree on? Because sometimes there's a little bit of changes, like the newer rules don't allow for mana burn. The old rules do, and there's variant rules for like old school, the way to play it. But generally what you play is the alpha set all the way up to Fallen Empires, and that's all 1993 to 1994 kind of expansions. That's what you build your deck out of, and it's not as broken as you might think, even though you have all these old vintage cards. You don't have all the other stuff that comes in and helps them turn into like these crazy turn one kill decks. It's kind of like just like the way the game used to be played years ago, but you do it from a different perspective, kind of with more knowledge about the cards and the way that they can work. So it's interesting to see what kind of decks actually come out. But anyways, let me show you what you actually do. So first I got to turn the camera down a little bit so you can see the play mat. And so for most of the game, you'll notice you don't really see my face while we're actually playing because you're looking down at the actual cards. So this is how I keep my my life counters. This is just a little side note. I always think this is fun. These light blue and dark blue ones, this is what came in 4th edition, the boxes, when you first got started in Magic the Gathering. And that was when I actually began. So I think that's really fun to still use these, actually. So what I do is use the dark blues for 5 life, and I use the light blues for 1 life. I just get a little collection of them out here. And this little treasure chest here, we got that at Disney World during the last visit. I just thought that was a lot of fun. It was a cool way to actually like store your little counters. It makes it cool. So anyways, I'll set up my life somewhere up here at the top where the opponent can see it. And then I'll have their life over here on this side so I can kind of keep track of my life and their life, right? And then you just shuffle your deck. And you're talking to the other guy while you're sitting there shuffling and discussing maybe strategies or another game you played with someone. Some people like to talk smack. I don't generally talk a lot of smack. I try to keep the games friendly. Some people are okay, they can handle it and stuff like that, but most of the time I don't really do that. But anyways, so obviously they can't touch your cards, so you just put your deck down and like you could try to keep everything on the screen. So you kind of cut your own deck so people can see it. Then you get a dice and roll your dice. I don't have a dice actually here at the moment, right next to me. And then what I usually do is I try to keep my deck back here, and then I grow my graveyard up this way, right? So then you get your hand of cards, decide if you need to mulligan or not. And I'll just show you like for a graveyard, I kind of do something like this. I'll just like lay the cards out like that. So when something dies and goes into the graveyard, people can actually see what's actually died. And something actually to be aware of, when I put my cards down here on the table like this, what you'll notice is in some spots, let's see if I can get it on the camera just right. I have a light that's right here in my room, right up this way. And sometimes the light bounces down off of the cards and makes it hard for them to see. So you want to be concerned about lighting because when you're playing against someone, they want to see the cards that you're actually playing with really clearly, so they know what's actually going on. And you just play the game like normal, you know. You tap your lands, untap, draw your card, have the game go back and forth. And there's a card that's really interesting that comes out in old school format. Let me go find it. You don't get to play this in like tournaments very much anymore. It's been phased out and it's kind of been brought back in. Let's see. There it is. The Chaos Orb. So this card is a lot of fun when you bring this into old school Magic, because the way that it used to work, there's no time to tell all the stories, but they call this a Dexterity Card, because what you do is you flip it onto the table, and whatever card it touches, then that card is destroyed. And so this card, this one, made people play with their stuff all spread out all over the place, so the Chaos Orb couldn't hit like all their cards. So the old school guys, they generally do it what's called channel fireball rules. They say you can only really hit like one target. So what you'll do is you'll generally say, okay, hey Bob, on your side, my Sapphire here, this is your Serendib Efreet. And then he sees you stand up over the card and try to do a Chaos Orb flip and land it like right on the card, and actually then say, okay, that one's destroyed. But the point is, you notice also how when I set down my hand, I set it down on camera so people could actually see it, right? And that's generally how the old school games actually go. They're a lot of fun. The first time I ever tried it, I was playing games with a guy over in Australia. Then I played another game with a guy in Canada. And then I played a bunch of games with Daniel Chang from Vintage Magic. I've played games with people all over the place. And it's a lot of fun, honestly. This is a great way to get into this format. And there's really no reason this has to stay to just old school. It could be any format, honestly. But it works really good in old school because it's so hard to run into people that actually like have the cards and want to play. And something else to be said about the old school guys, the collector's edition cards, which are much cheaper versions of stuff that's really expensive. Most guys that do old school are perfectly fine playing with a collector's edition. Like if you've got collector's edition, they're not going to complain about it. Some people will make a stink about a straight up proxy. Most people I've spoken to, like, they just want to play, and so you could probably have a deck just filled with proxies, and it would probably be perfectly fine. So it's a really neat format. If you're an old school vintage player, I heavily suggest you try it. I'd love to probably play a game with you online also. Just put a comment down below. Tell me you're interested. I'll leave a link to the old school 9394 Skype group, Facebook group, so you can hopefully get an invite if you're interested in it. And anyways, this is Edwin the Magic Engineer again, and I hope to see you online. Bye, everybody.